Today I would like to invite you to listen to the Dhammapada of the Buddha Shakyamuni, the 94th verse from the Buddhist scriptures on the YouTube channel THại in the USA. He whose senses are subdued, like steeds well trained by a charioteer, he whose pride is destroyed and is free from the corruptions, such a steadfast one even the gods hold dear. This verse illuminates a profound teaching of the Buddha regarding the mastery of the senses, the eradication of pride, and the purification of the mind from the subtle corruptions that bind beings to suffering. The image of the well-trained steeds guided by a charioteer represents the disciplined mind of one who has cultivated mindfulness and restraint. Just as a charioteer skillfully controls each horse, directing them with wisdom and gentleness so that they move in harmony and with purpose, the practitioner who subdues the senses maintains mastery over desires, aversions, and impulses. Such a mind is steady, balanced, and resilient, not easily disturbed by external circumstances or internal turbulence. In the stories accompanying this verse in the commentaries of the Dhammapada, we find disciples who embody this teaching through consistent practice. A monk who has trained his senses does not react impulsively to sights, sounds, tastes, touches, or thoughts. He observes their arising, notes their impermanence, and does not allow them to control his mind. When pleasure arises, it is experienced without clinging. When pain arises, it is met with equanimity. Each sensory experience becomes an opportunity for mindfulness, reflection, and the cultivation of insight. The suppression of the senses does not mean rejection or denial, but conscious mastery. The mind is neither enslaved by desire nor averse to the natural flow of experience. It acts with discernment, responding to conditions appropriately and skillfully. The destruction of pride, another aspect highlighted in this verse, is equally essential. Pride, whether subtle or overt, obscures insight and binds the mind to a false sense of self. The practitioner reflects on the impermanent nature of status, appearance, and personal achievements, understanding that true worth lies in the cultivation of virtue, awareness, and compassion. In the lives of the Buddha's disciples, pride is gradually replaced by humility, gentleness, and respect for all beings. They recognize the interconnectedness of life and the equality of all sentient beings, understanding that attachment to superiority or recognition is an obstacle to liberation. The verse emphasizes that those who subdue the senses destroy pride and free themselves from corruption become steadfast beings. Their steadiness arises from the continuous cultivation of mindfulness, ethical conduct, and insight. They do not waver in the face of challenges or distractions, nor are they disturbed by praise or blame. Like a well-trained chariot guided by a skilled charioteer, their mind moves through life with clarity, composure, and harmony. In the stories, even the gods are described as holding such practitioners in reverence. This is not an expression of worldly fame, but a recognition of the power and purity of a mind that has been disciplined and cultivated with wisdom. The practitioner's steadiness, serenity, and freedom inspire admiration and respect, reflecting the natural radiance of virtue and awareness. The practice of subduing the senses begins with awareness. Each thought, each impulse, and each sensation is observed carefully, noting its arising, its nature, and its impermanence. When desire or aversion arises, it is recognized, examined, and allowed to pass without identification or clinging. The mind is trained to respond rather than react, to act with wisdom rather than instinct, and to remain rooted in clarity and composure. Over time, this disciplined practice purifies the mind from subtle defilements, including craving, hatred, delusion, and pride. The eradication of corruptions allows the practitioner to cultivate steadiness and balance in every circumstance. In the stories associated with this verse, Monks and nuns who have achieved such mastery move through life with calm presence, gentle speech, and compassionate action. They eat with mindfulness, walk with awareness, speak with care, and meditate with sustained attention. Their life reflects the harmony and composure that arise when the senses are subdued, pride is destroyed, and the mind is free from defilements. The verse thus serves as both a teaching and an inspiration. It reminds us that liberation is not achieved through external display or recognition, but through inner cultivation, discipline, and reflection. By observing the senses, restraining impulsive reactions, and destroying pride, we align ourselves with the path of wisdom, virtue, and freedom. Like the well-trained steeds, our mind can move through life with ease, clarity, and purpose, unbound by attachment or aversion. In this way, the 94th verse illuminates the profound interconnection between sense restraint, humility, and purity of mind. It guides us to cultivate steadiness and resilience, to act with discernment, and to walk the path of liberation with clarity, serenity, and compassionate presence. The mastery of the senses is not merely an exercise of restraint, but a profound cultivation of awareness and understanding. When a practitioner brings mindfulness to every sensory experience, each sight, sound, touch, taste, and thought becomes a doorway to insight rather than a source of attachment. The Buddha often taught that the senses are powerful forces that can either bind the mind to suffering or, when understood and disciplined, guide it toward liberation. In the lives of the monastic disciples, this discipline manifests in simple but profound ways. A monk walking through the forest observes the rustle of leaves, the songs of birds, the patterns of sunlight and shadow, without being pulled into craving or aversion. He notes the arising of desire or discomfort, recognizes it as impermanent, and allows it to pass. Each moment becomes an opportunity to train the mind, to develop clarity, and to cultivate detachment. Such practice is neither harsh nor punitive. It is gentle, deliberate, and grounded in understanding. The metaphor of the well-trained steeds illustrates this precisely. Just as a charioteer gently and skillfully guides powerful horses without coercion, so too does the practitioner guide the senses. The mind is trained to respond with wisdom, not react out of impulse, to move harmoniously through the world, and to act in accordance with ethical conduct and insight. This skillful management of the senses gradually diminishes the power of habitual cravings, subtle aversions, and the fluctuations of pride. Pride itself is a subtle corruption that can infiltrate even the most disciplined mind. It manifests as attachment to one's own opinions, achievements, spiritual attainments, or perceived superiority. The destruction of pride requires careful observation of the mind and understanding of the impermanent and conditioned nature of all phenomena. Practitioners who cultivate humility recognize that true strength lies in inner clarity, ethical conduct, and compassionate action, rather than in external validation or recognition. In the Buddha's time, monks who had subdued the senses and overcome pride were often noted for their calm presence and the dignity of their conduct. Villagers and fellow disciples alike would sense the serenity and balance radiating from such individuals. Their lives were examples of the profound stability that arises from the eradication of mental corruptions. They acted not out of desire or self-interest, but with discernment, compassion, and wisdom. Every action, whether eating, walking, teaching, or meditating, was infused with awareness. The body, speech, and mind moved in harmony, guided by the principles of the Dharma. This steadiness, born from the training of the senses and the destruction of pride, is what the verse describes as being dear even to the gods. It is not worldly fame that draws admiration, but the luminous clarity of a mind free from defilements. The gods, symbolic of beings with subtle perception, recognize the purity, composure, and steadiness of such practitioners. The verse teaches that this steadiness is cultivated gradually through continuous effort and practice. The suppression of the senses requires patience, diligence, and sustained mindfulness. Each encounter with desire, distraction, or discomfort becomes a moment to exercise restraint and to observe the arising and passing of mental states. Over time, the mind grows stable, luminous, and free from the fluctuations of craving, aversion, and pride. The life of a practitioner who embodies this verse is not marked by rigidity or fear, but by ease, balance, and grace. Their engagement with the world is skillful and compassionate. They are fully present in each moment, neither entangled in past regrets, nor grasping for future outcomes. Their heart is steady, their mind radiant, and their actions aligned with the Dharma. The practice of sense restraint and humility is thus both a personal cultivation and a path that benefits others. The serenity and clarity of such a mind inspire those around it, offering a living example of the possibility of freedom and liberation. The verse reminds us that inner mastery is more valuable than external power or wealth. The well-trained mind, disciplined and free from pride, embodies qualities that are cherished across realms, demonstrating the transformative potential of the Dharma. The teachings call us to reflect on our own attachments and subtle corruptions, and to cultivate restraint, awareness, and humility. Through consistent mindfulness and gentle self-discipline, we can guide our senses as skillfully as a charioteer guides his horses, allowing the mind to move harmoniously through life, free from the turbulence of craving and pride. In this way, the 94th verse illuminates the path of steadfastness, showing us that liberation is achieved not through external circumstance, but through the quiet, diligent, and continuous cultivation of inner freedom, clarity, and virtue. The practitioner's life becomes a living embodiment of the Dharma, demonstrating that ethical conduct, mindfulness, and humility are the foundations of true steadiness and spiritual radiance. The steadfastness of a practitioner whose senses are subdued and whose pride has been destroyed is reflected in every aspect of daily life. Such a person walks in the world like a river flowing smoothly over stones, neither diverted by obstacles nor creating turbulence. Their mind is balanced and serene, capable of perceiving reality as it is without distortion or clinging. In the lives of the Buddha's disciples, we observe that this balance allows for deep compassion, insight, and discernment. When interacting with others, the practitioner speaks with kindness, yet with clarity, neither inflating the self nor diminishing the dignity of others. Their actions are deliberate and appropriate, arising from wisdom rather than impulse. They exemplify the Buddha's teaching that mastery of the senses and the eradication of pride is not an isolated spiritual exercise, but a living practice integrated into the flow of life. Even in moments of challenge, such as encountering illness, scarcity, or misunderstanding, the mind remains steady. The practitioner does not react with anger or frustration, but observes the arising of mental and emotional states with equanimity. This continuous vigilance and mindfulness gradually purifies subtle corruptions in the mind, enabling insight to emerge naturally. The verse's metaphor of well-trained steeds extends beyond mere self-control. It highlights the harmony that arises when the mind is disciplined yet flexible, alert yet calm. Just as the horses respond to the guidance of the charioteer with grace and strength, the senses of a well-trained practitioner are responsive but not enslaved by desire or aversion. Their mind moves fluidly through circumstances, guided by ethical principles, wisdom, and compassion. This training also cultivates humility. As pride is dissolved, the practitioner recognizes the impermanent and interdependent nature of all phenomena. There is no need for superiority, entitlement, or the validation of others, for their worth is understood in the cultivation of virtue, awareness, and kindness. The life of such a person embodies steadiness that even the gods admire, not as a demonstration of power, but as a reflection of the natural radiance that arises from ethical discipline and mental clarity. In the stories accompanying this verse, we see examples of disciples who travel from village to village, whose presence inspires respect, whose words are received with attention, and whose actions are conducted with careful mindfulness. Their steadiness is evident in the way they handle daily needs, communicate with others, and approach meditation. They respond to circumstances with discernment, neither reacting to pleasure nor resisting discomfort, but acting in alignment with the Dharma. This steadiness is a living demonstration of the transformative potential of the teachings. It reminds us that the cultivation of inner discipline, mindfulness, and humility is not an abstract ideal, but a tangible practice with visible effects. The verse teaches that liberation is rooted in the mastery of the mind, in the integration of ethical conduct, awareness, and insight into every moment. By subduing the senses, destroying pride, and purifying the mind from corruptions, the practitioner develops steadiness that is not rigid but flexible, not bound but free, not passive but profoundly responsive. This quality of mind allows them to navigate life with grace, clarity, and equanimity. The teachings also emphasize the subtlety of this practice. It is not a sudden achievement, but a gradual process that requires patience, vigilance, and continuous reflection. Each sensory experience, each thought, each emotional reaction becomes an opportunity to observe, release, and cultivate steadiness. With consistent practice, the mind becomes luminous, serene, and resilient. Like the disciplined horses guided by a skilled charioteer, the mind moves harmoniously, neither entangled in desire nor constrained by fear or aversion. This cultivation benefits not only the practitioner, but also those around them. The presence of such a steadfast mind radiates calmness, clarity, and compassion, inspiring others to follow the path with diligence and mindfulness. The verse encourages us to engage in this practice in our daily life, observing our senses, restraining impulses, reflecting on pride, and cultivating clarity. By doing so, we gradually develop steadiness that is resilient and radiant, a mind that is both free and inspiring, aligned with the path of liberation and the principles of the Dharma. As we reflect on the 94th verse of the Dhammapada, we are reminded of the profound importance of sense restraint, the eradication of pride, and the cultivation of steadfastness. The practitioner who follows this path moves through life with clarity, balance, and compassion, like well-trained steeds guided by a wise charioteer. Their mind is serene, radiant, and free from corruption, embodying the Dharma in every thought, word, and action. May this teaching inspire us to observe our senses with mindfulness, to release pride and attachment, and to cultivate steadiness and inner freedom in all aspects of life. Thank you for watching my video. Namalammitpa. I wish to bring this merit towards all disciples and sentient beings, all of whom will attain Buddhahood. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I really appreciate your time.